My phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Anna's text glowed on the screen. Late dinner with clients. Don't wait up. I stared at those words, sitting in my creaking leather chair in our 3-story house on Maple Street. The floorboards groaned overhead. Probably our daughter Jessica moving around in her room, avoiding homework like it was contagious. Outside, Mrs. Henderson's porch light flickered through our curtains, casting dancing shadows on the family photos lining our mantel. Photos from better times, when Anna's smile wasn't practiced and my gut wasn't constantly twisted in knots. Sure, Anna, I muttered to the empty room. Enjoy the lobster. Tell Rick to check his stock portfolio. The house felt different these days. 22 years of marriage, and suddenly everything seemed hollow. The walls held secrets now. The silence between Anna and me had weight, pressing down like a thick blanket. Even Jessica noticed. She'd started eating dinner in her room, claiming she had too much studying, to join us at the table where conversation had become a minefield. I'm Dave Mitchell, 43 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps my brain sharp. Anna always introduced me as my husband, the IT consultant, with that slight emphasis on consultant that made it sound more important than it was. She worked downtown at Hartwell & Associates, a high-powered public relations firm where everyone wore suits that cost more than my monthly car payment. The promotion came 6 months ago. Senior Vice President of Client Relations, more money, more prestige, more late nights at the office, more client dinners and networking events that seemed to happen every other evening. Anna started dressing differently too, sharper suits, expensive perfume, a confidence that hadn't been there before. And Rick Brennan entered our lives. Rick was her business partner on the Morrison account, some big corporate rebranding project that required countless evening meetings. Tall, polished, the kind of guy who probably had his teeth professionally whitened monthly. He drove a Tesla and lived in one of those converted loft apartments downtown with exposed brick walls and floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd met him exactly once, at Anna's company Christmas party. He shook my hand with the grip of someone trying to prove something, flashed his perfect smile, and spent the entire conversation looking over my shoulder for someone more important to talk to. When Anna introduced me, he said, "Oh, you're the computer guy." Like I fixed printers at Best Buy, that was 3 months ago. Since then, Rick's name came up in Anna's conversations daily. Rick thinks we should restructure the campaign. Rick has connections with the Morrison board. Rick suggested this amazing restaurant for the client presentation. Rick. Tonight felt different, though. Tonight, I'd finally done something about it. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, screen still glowing with the aftermath of my evening's work. 3 hours of careful research, social engineering, and what some people might call creative problem-solving. Rick Brennan wasn't as smart as he thought he was. His brokerage password was written on a sticky note attached to his monitor. I'd seen it during a video call Anna had on speaker. Brennan 2024, with an exclamation point, because nothing says secure password like your own name and the current year. I hadn't stolen anything, hadn't committed any crimes. I'd simply executed a perfectly legal trade using Rick's own account. He'd been bragging about his sure-thing biotech stock for weeks, according to Anna. So I helped him double down, really double down, right before the FDA announcement that tanked the company's value by 60%. The beauty of it was the timing. Rick would discover the trade tomorrow morning, right around the time he was supposed to be having his client dinner with my wife. The margin call would hit his phone like a freight train, and suddenly his evening would become much more complicated. My phone rang. Anna's ringtone, the opening notes of "Stand By Me," which used to mean something. Now it just sounded ironic. "Dave?" Her voice was tight, strained. In the background, I could hear shouting, male voice, angry. Something's wrong with Rick's... His portfolio? I interrupted, leaning back in my chair. Yeah, biotech can be volatile, especially when you leverage your entire position on a single stock right before bad news hits. Silence. Then, "How did you..." "No? Lucky guess. Where are you, Anna? The lobster trap on Harbor Street?" More silence. The shouting in the background got louder. Rick's voice, high and panicked. "This is impossible. Someone hacked my account." "Nobody hacked anything," I said calmly. The trade was executed using proper credentials from his registered IP address, and everything's completely legitimate. The guy who fixes the Wi-Fi and remembers to take out the trash, the guy who doesn't make waves, but I've been watching, learning, and now it's time to put that education to use. I open a new browser window and navigate to Premier Realty's website. They have a report concerns about our agents form. How convenient. I fill it out carefully, professionally. include the screenshots, include Brian's pattern of behavior, include a note about how this reflects on their company's reputation. Submit. Next, I create a new email account and send the same information to the local real estate board, then to the Better Business Bureau, then to 3 different neighborhood Facebook groups where Brian has posted his services. Each email is polite, professional, just a concerned citizen making sure people have all the facts. My phone rings again. Aaron, of course. This time I answer. Will, thank God. Listen, I need you to... How's traffic? I ask. Silence. Long enough for me to take another sip of wine. What? You said you were stuck in traffic. Just wondering how it's moving now. It's fine. Look, Will, I need to tell you something. I'm sure you do. But first, let me tell you something. I know exactly where you are, Aaron. I know exactly what you've been doing, and I know exactly what's about to happen next. Another silence. This one longer. Will, please, let me explain. Oh, you don't need to explain anything to me, but you might want to start thinking about how you're going to explain it to everyone else. I hang up. The girls are upstairs, probably getting ready for bed. Emma's singing some song from school, her voice drifting down the hallway like everything's normal, like their mother isn't currently having the worst night of her life in some real estate agent's driveway. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Because that's where she is now. I check her location again, and she's moved. Not toward home, toward Brian's driveway. Probably having a panicked conversation about damage control. And too late for that. My laptop chimes with a new email. It's from Dana McConnell. Thank you for letting me know. I'm handling this now. I raise my wine glass in a silent toast to Dana. I have a feeling she's going to handle this very thoroughly. The front door opens. Erin's home early. Her heels click across the hardwood floor faster than usual, nervous. Will, we need to talk. I close my laptop and head downstairs. She's standing in the kitchen, still in her work clothes, but her hair's messed up and her lipstick's gone. She looks exactly like someone who's been caught. How was your evening? I ask. Will, I can explain everything. I'm sure you can. But here's the thing, Erin. I don't actually care about your explanations anymore. What I care about is what happens next. She stares at me like she's seeing me for the first time. Maybe she is. What do you mean? I smile. It's not a nice smile. I mean, buckle up, sweetheart, because you have no idea what you've just started. Wednesday morning arrives like any other, except everything's different. I make coffee, pack the girls' lunches, and check my phone for the overnight entertainment. 17 missed calls from Erin, 12 voicemails I haven't bothered listening to, and 3 text messages that tell me everything I need to know about how last night went. Please don't do this. We can work this out. Think about the girls. Always the girls. Funny how she didn't think about them when she was playing house with Brian McConnell. Erin's already gone when I wake up. Probably couldn't face me this morning, or maybe she's doing damage control. Either way, I have work to do. I drop Katie and Emma at school, giving them extra hugs and promising pizza for dinner. They don't need to know their world is about to change. Not yet. At my office, a cramped space in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, I settle in with fresh coffee and open my laptop. Time to see what overnight developments have occurred. My phone buzzes. Text from Pete, my bartender friend who knows everyone's business. Dude, did you see the drama on the neighborhood app? Some real estate guy got busted cheating. His wife went nuclear. I open Nextdoor and find the thread. Dana McConnell has posted a lengthy, detailed account of her husband's activities, complete with screenshots and a professional headshot of Brian looking smug. The comments are already piling up, neighbors expressing shock, other women sharing their own Brian McConnell stories. Apparently, I wasn't the first to discover his extracurricular activities. This man has been lying to his family and clients for months, Dana's post reads. He uses his real estate business as cover for meeting married women. I have documentation of his pattern of behavior and will be sharing it with his employer and professional licensing board. The woman doesn't mess around. I respect that. My office phone rings. Unknown number. Will Harlan. Mr. Harlan, this is Margaret Chen from Premier Realty. I believe you sent us some information yesterday regarding one of our agents. I did. Could you come in today to discuss this matter? We take these allegations very seriously. I'll be there at 2. Thank you. And Mr. Harlan? Bring any additional documentation you might have. I smile. Margaret Chen sounds like someone who runs a tight ship. Brian's about to find out what happens when you embarrass your boss. The morning passes quickly. I have actual work to do, a small business owner whose system keeps crashing, probably because his nephew upgraded it with software downloaded from questionable websites. Easy fix, good money, and it keeps my mind occupied while phase 2 of my plan develops. At lunch, I drive past Brian's office. His black Escalade is in the parking lot, but something's different. There's a woman standing next to it, taking pictures. She's about 40, short brown hair, wearing scrubs. That would be Dana documenting her husband's assets before he figures out what's happening. Smart woman. My phone buzzes. Text from Aaron. Can we meet for coffee, please? I type back, busy today, maybe tomorrow. Will, this is important. So is our marriage. I don't wait for her response. At 2 o'clock sharp, I'm sitting in Margaret Chen's office. She's exactly what I expected. Professional, no nonsense, with the kind of stare that probably makes grown men confess their sins. Mr. Harlan, thank you for coming in. I've reviewed your complaint and done some additional investigation. This is quite serious. I figured you'd want to know. Indeed. Brian McConnell has been with our company for 8 years. His conduct reflects directly on our reputation. She slides a folder across the desk. These are additional complaints we've received since yesterday. Apparently your report opened the floodgates. I flip through the folder. 5 more women, all with similar stories. Brian using his real estate connections to meet married clients, hotel receipts, restaurant bills charged to the company account, a pattern of deception that goes back years. What happens now? I ask. Mr. McConnell's employment is terminated, effective immediately. We're also reporting his conduct to the state licensing board and considering legal action for misuse of company resources. That seems appropriate. Margaret Chen leans back in her chair. Mr. Harlan, I have to ask, how did you discover this information? My wife has been having an affair with Brian McConnell for several months. I found out yesterday and thought his wife deserved to know. She nods slowly. I'm sorry for your situation, but I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Men like Brian McConnell give our entire industry a bad reputation. I stand to leave, then pause. Ms. Chen, Brian drives a company vehicle, doesn't he? He did. We repossessed it this morning. Perfect. I'm driving home when my phone rings. Pete, Will, you need to get down to Murphy's. Your wife is here, and she's making a scene. Murphy's is the local bar where everyone goes to drink away their suburban problems. It's also where Erin apparently decided to rally support for her side of the story. What kind of scene? She's telling everyone you're stalking her. Says you're controlling and dangerous. Jess and Tasha are backing her up, but most people aren't buying it. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Murphy's is crowded for a Wednesday afternoon. I spot Erin immediately. She's holding court at a corner table with her usual crew. Jess, the enabler who's been divorced 3 times. Tasha, who treats other people's drama like her personal entertainment. And Mark, Erin's gay best friend who lives for this kind of mess. They see me walk in. The conversation stops. I order a beer from Pete, who slides it across the bar with a meaningful look. Then I turn around and survey the room. Half these people know me. I've fixed their computers, helped with their Wi-Fi, been the reliable guy at neighborhood barbecues for over a decade. Afternoon, everyone, I say loudly enough for the whole bar to hear. Beautiful day, isn't it? Erin's face goes pale. She knows what's coming. You know, it's funny how technology works these days, I continue, pulling out my phone. Like location services. Amazing how accurate they are. I hold up my phone, showing the screenshots from last night. Erin's location at Brian's house while she texted me about traffic jams. Or voice recording apps. Did you know most phones can record conversations now? Crystal clear quality. I press play on an audio file. Erin's voice fills the bar. Brian, you have to understand, Will doesn't satisfy me anymore. He's boring. His LinkedIn profile boasted about conservative investment strategies and fiduciary responsibility. His Facebook showed him at high-stakes poker games and luxury car shows. The contradiction would be interesting to point out to the right people. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Everything okay down there? Heard shouting? I typed back, just your mother and me having a conversation. Go to sleep, kiddo. Are you guys getting divorced? The question hit harder than I expected. Jessica was 17, not stupid. She'd probably sensed the tension for weeks. We're figuring some things out. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried, just curious. Mom's been acting weird lately. Weird. That was one way to put it. Get some sleep, Jess. School tomorrow. Whatever. Night, Dad. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, listening to the house settle around me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities. Anna and Rick thought they'd won something tonight, but they'd actually just shown me exactly how far they were willing to go, which meant I knew exactly how far I needed to go in response. The game was just beginning. Big Mike's gym smelled like sweat, leather, and decades of hard work. The neon sign outside flickered between Mike's boxing and Mike's bowing, giving the place a broken-down charm that matched the neighborhood. I'd been coming here for 15 years, ever since Anna complained that I was getting soft around the middle. Now, at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, it felt like the only honest place left in my life. Mike Torino stood behind the counter, all 6'4" and 250 pounds of him, reading yesterday's sports section with reading glasses perched on his broken nose. He'd been a middleweight contender back in the 80s, before a car accident ended his career and sent him into the gym business. Now he trained local kids, fixed broken men like me, and dispensed wisdom with the subtlety of a heavyweight's right hook. "You look like hell, Mitchell," he said without looking up from his paper. "Thanks. Always nice to get a morale boost first thing in the morning." Mike folded the paper and studied me over his glasses. "Anna kick you out, or did you leave on your own?" "How did you?" "You're wearing the same clothes as yesterday. You've got that hollow look around your eyes, and you're here at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday instead of your usual Thursday evening. Either your wife kicked you out, or you're having some kind of breakdown." I grabbed my gloves from the locker and started wrapping my hands. Option 3. I discovered my wife's been having an affair, and I decided to do something about it. Mike raised an eyebrow. "Something legal, I hope?" "Completely legal. Morally questionable, maybe, but legal." "Good. Last thing you need is jail time." "What kind of something?" I told him about Rick's portfolio, the margin calls, the investor emails. Mike listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or grunting approval. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You know what your problem is, Mitchell?" "My wife's sleeping with another man?" "No, that's her problem. Your problem is you're thinking too small." I stopped wrapping my hands. "Too small?" Mike came around the counter and leaned against the heavy bag I'd been planning to abuse. "This Rick character, you hurt his wallet. That's good, but it's temporary. Money can be replaced. What you need to do is hurt something that can't be replaced." "Like what?" "His reputation, his standing in the community, his sense of himself as a big shot." Mike tapped his temple with one thick finger. "Up here is where the real damage happens. Make him look like a fool, and he'll never recover." "And Anna?" "Same principle. What does she value most?" I thought about it. Her career, her image, being seen as successful and important. "There you go. Hit her where she lives." Mike walked over to the old boombox in the corner and turned on some classic rock. The gym started to fill with its usual morning crowd. Construction workers, cops, a few retirees who'd been coming here since the Carter administration. The sound of gloves hitting bags provided a rhythmic backdrop to our conversation. "You want some advice from an old fighter?" Mike asked. "That's why I'm here. Don't get mad. Get even. But do it smart. Angry men make mistakes. Patient men win fights." I started working the heavy bag, letting my frustration flow through my fists. Each punch felt like a small victory, a release of the pressure that had been building for months. "There's something else," I said between combinations. "Anna's friend Lindsay has been asking a lot of questions lately, wanting to know how I'm handling the stress of Anna's new job." Mike paused in his equipment organizing. "You think she knows?" "I think she's fishing. Either Anna told her, or she's trying to figure out how much I know." "Could be useful. Information flows both ways." "Meaning?" "Meaning maybe you feed her some information and see where it goes. Test the waters." I threw a particularly hard right cross that made the bag swing. "You think I should tell her I know about the affair?" "Hell no. Tell her something else, something false. See if it gets back to Anna and Rick." The idea had merit. Lindsay worked at a competing PR firm downtown. She and Anna had been friends since college, but there was always an undercurrent of rivalry between them, professional jealousy disguised as friendship. "What kind of false information?" Mike grinned, and I remembered why he'd been such a successful fighter. Behind those gentle eyes was a strategic mind that could spot weaknesses and exploit them without mercy. "That depends. What would scare them most?" I thought about Rick's panicked phone calls last night, Anna's desperate rush to help him, the way they'd both underestimated what I was capable of. They're afraid I'll expose them publicly, ruin their reputations. So make them think you're planning something big, something that would destroy both their careers. Like what? Doesn't matter, as long as it sounds believable. The point is to make them paranoid. Paranoid people make mistakes. I finished my workout and headed for the showers, my mind already working through possibilities. By the time I got dressed, I had a plan. "Mike," I called as I headed for the door. "Thanks for the advice." "Don't thank me yet," he said. "Thank me when it's over." I drove home through the morning traffic, past the harbor where fishing boats were heading out for the day. The city looked different in the morning light. Cleaner, more hopeful. Even the rundown parts had a certain dignity when the sun hit them right. Anna's car wasn't in the driveway. She'd probably spent the night at Rick's loft, helping him deal with his financial crisis. The thought should have hurt more than it did, but I was surprised to find that I felt mostly relief. No more pretending, no more wondering. The truth was finally out in the open, even if only between us. Jessica was eating cereal at the kitchen counter, already dressed for school. She looked up when I walked in, taking in my gym clothes and morning stubble. "Rough night?" she asked. "You could say that?" "Mom didn't come home." It wasn't a question, and I didn't treat it like one. "No, she didn't." Jessica nodded and went back to her cereal. She was handling this better than I'd expected, but then again, she was Anna's daughter too. Maybe she'd inherited some of that emotional compartmentalization. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Whatever you're planning to do about this situation, and I know you're planning something because you get that look when you're solving problems, just remember that I have to live in this town too." Smart kid. Smarter than either of her parents, probably. "I'll keep that in mind," I promised. She grabbed her backpack and headed for the door. "Also, if you need any help with social media stuff, let me know. I know where all the bodies are buried online." The door closed behind her, leaving me alone in the kitchen with my thoughts and a growing sense that this family might survive after all, just in a different configuration. My phone buzzed with a text from Lindsay. "Coffee this afternoon. I'm worried about you and Anna." Perfect timing. I typed back, "Sure, the grind at 2 p.m.? Her response came immediately. "See you there." I spent the rest of the morning researching Rick's business connections, mapping out the network of relationships that kept his consulting firm afloat. By lunchtime, I had a clear picture of his professional ecosystem and several ideas about how to disrupt it. The afternoon coffee meeting with Lindsay would be the first test of Mike's strategy. Time to see how well I could play the game that Anna and Rick had started. The grind was one of those aggressively hip coffee shops that had sprouted downtown like mushrooms after rain. Exposed brick walls, vintage industrial lighting, baristas with elaborate tattoos, and attitudes to match. It was the kind of place Rick would love, and I normally avoided, which made it perfect for this particular conversation. Lindsay was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with what looked like a complicated drink involving multiple types of milk. She waved me over with the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Professional warmth with an undertone of calculation. Lindsay Crawford had been Anna's college roommate and remained her closest friend, though friend might be too generous a term for their relationship. They were more like friendly competitors, each keeping careful score of the other's successes and failures. Lindsay worked at Morrison & Associates, a competing PR firm that had lost the Morrison account to Anna's company. The irony of the name similarity wasn't lost on anyone. "Dave, you look tired," she said as I sat down. "Everything okay at home?" "Define okay," I replied, signaling the barista for a simple black coffee. "Anna's been working late a lot. The Morrison account is keeping her busy." "Right, the Morrison account." Lindsay's tone was carefully neutral. "Big opportunity for her." "Huge. She's been working very closely with Rick Brennan on it. Very closely." I let that hang in the air and watched Lindsay's reaction. A slight tightening around her eyes, a barely perceptible pause before she responded. "Rick's good at what he does," she said finally. "I'm sure he is. Anna certainly seems impressed with his skills." Another pause. Lindsay was definitely fishing, but she wasn't sure how much I knew. "Have you met Rick?" she asked. "Once. Seems like a nice enough guy, though I heard he's going through some financial difficulties." This was true, thanks to my intervention, but Lindsay didn't know that. She leaned forward slightly. "Financial difficulties?" "Investment problems, from what I understand. Anna mentioned something about his portfolio taking a hit. Risky trading strategies." I shrugged. "Not my area of expertise, but it sounds serious." Lindsay's expression shifted. This was clearly new information to her, which meant Anna hadn't shared the details of last night's crisis. "Interesting." "That's concerning," Lindsay said, "especially given his position on the Morrison account." "Why's that?" "Well, if Rick's having money problems, it might affect his judgment. Financial stress can make people do desperate things." "What kind of desperate things?" Lindsay looked uncomfortable, like she'd said more than she intended. "Oh, cut corners, make promises they can't keep, compromise their professional standards." I nodded thoughtfully. That would be bad for Anna too, wouldn't it? If Rick's judgment is compromised, it could reflect poorly on her. Potentially, yes. I should probably warn her. Though she's been so busy lately, we barely talk anymore. When was the last time you two had a real conversation? The question felt loaded, but I answered honestly. Weeks, maybe. She's either at work, or at client dinners, or too tired to talk when she gets home. I'm starting to feel like a stranger in my own house. Lindsay reached across the table and patted my hand with practiced sympathy. Marriage is hard, Dave, especially when careers are involved. Anna's under a lot of pressure right now. I'm sure she is. The question is whether that pressure is professional or personal. What do you mean? I took a sip of my coffee and chose my words carefully. I mean that Anna's been different lately. Distracted, secretive. She gets phone calls she won't answer in front of me. She started dressing differently, wearing new perfume. Either she's having some kind of midlife crisis, or... I let the sentence trail off, watching Lindsay's face. Or what? She prompted. Or she's involved with someone. There it was, out in the open. Lindsay's reaction was telling. Not surprise, but concern about how much I suspected. Dave, that's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's an observation. And honestly, if Anna is having an affair, I need to know. Not so I can make a scene or cause drama, but so I can protect myself and Jessica. Protect yourself how? This was the moment Mike had prepared me for. Time to plant the seed. Legally, financially. Anna makes more money than I do now, and she has access to information and resources I don't. If she's planning to leave me for someone else, I need to be prepared. You think she's planning to leave? I think she's planning something. The question is what? I pulled out my phone and showed Lindsay a screenshot I'd prepared, a fake email thread between me and a lawyer discussing asset protection and divorce strategy. The names and details were fabricated, but it looked convincing. I've been doing some research, I said, talking to people who understand these situations. Lindsay studied the phone screen, her expression growing more concerned. Dave, this seems extreme. Maybe you should talk to Anna directly before you start involving lawyers. Talk to her about what? My suspicions? My paranoia? I shook my head. No, if something's going on, I need evidence first. Otherwise, she'll just deny everything and become more careful about hiding it. What kind of evidence are you looking for? Financial records, phone logs, email communications, the kind of information that would hold up in court if necessary. I was laying it on thick, but Lindsay was buying it. She was already calculating how this information would affect Anna, and by extension, her own position in their competitive friendship. Have you found anything? She asked. Some irregularities, unexplained expenses, charges to restaurants and hotels that don't match her claimed schedule. This was also fabricated, but plausible. About being reasonable adults. I sit down at my desk and open my laptop, ignoring him completely. Brian, you're trespassing. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to leave before I call the police. Will, listen to me. This has gone too far. Dana's trying to take my kids. She's frozen all my accounts. She's telling everyone in town that I'm some kind of predator. Are you? What? Are you a predator? Because from where I sit, you look like a married man who spent months manipulating my wife into an affair while lying to your own family. Brian steps closer to my desk. Your wife pursued me. She came on to me at an open house. She made it clear she was available. And you, being a man of strong moral character, immediately told her you were married and not interested. It wasn't like that. No, I imagine it wasn't. I look up from my laptop. Brian, let me ask you something. How many other wives have you been helping with their real estate needs? His face goes pale. I don't know what you mean. Jennifer Morrison. Ring a bell? How about Sarah Chen, or maybe Lisa Rodriguez? Each name hits him like a physical blow. He sits down heavily in the chair. How do you know about your other girlfriends? Brian, you're not nearly as clever as you think you are. Dana hired a private investigator. Your phone records, credit card statements, hotel receipts. It's all documented. Will, you have to understand. My marriage was already over. Dana and I haven't been happy for years. Then you should have gotten divorced before you started collecting other men's wives like baseball cards. My phone rings. Dana McConnell. Excuse me, Brian. I need to take this. I answer the call. Good morning, Dana. Will, is Brian McConnell in your office right now? I look at Brian, who's gone from pale to green. How did you know? I'm having him followed. My investigator says he's been there for 20 minutes. That's correct. Good. Keep him there. I'm 5 minutes away with my lawyer and a process server. I'll do my best. I hang up and smile at Brian. You might want to sit down. This is about to get interesting. Who was that? Your wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. She's on her way over with some paperwork for you. Brian jumps up and heads for the door, but it opens before he reaches it. Dana walks in, followed by a woman in an expensive suit and a man carrying a briefcase. Hello, Brian, Dana says calmly. Running away again? Dana, we can work this out. We don't need lawyers. Actually, we do. The woman in the suit steps forward. Mr. McConnell, I'm Patricia Williams, Mrs. McConnell's attorney. You're being served with divorce papers, a restraining order, and a motion for emergency custody. The process server hands Brian a thick stack of documents. Brian McConnell, you've been served. Brian flips through the papers, his face growing more panicked with each page. Dana, you can't take my kids. I can, and I will. Your conduct has made you an unfit parent. What conduct? I had an affair. Lots of people have affairs. Patricia Williams opens her briefcase. Mr. McConnell, you've had multiple affairs over the past 3 years. You've used marital assets to fund these relationships. You've exposed your family to potential health risks, and you've demonstrated a pattern of deception that makes you unreliable as a co-parent. This is insane. What's insane, Dana says quietly, is that you thought you could destroy our family without consequences. Brian turns to me, desperate. Will, tell them this is crazy. Tell them you understand. Actually, Brian, I think Dana's being remarkably reasonable. If someone had been cheating on me for 3 years, I'd probably be less civilized about it. But Erin said... What did Erin say? She said you were controlling, abusive, that she was afraid of you. I laugh. Actually laugh. Brian, did it ever occur to you that a woman who would lie to her husband for months might also lie to her boyfriend? The look on his face tells me it hadn't. Patricia Williams checks her watch. Mr. McConnell, you have 72 hours to vacate the family residence. All joint accounts have been frozen pending asset evaluation. You're prohibited from contacting your children except through supervised visitation, which can be arranged through the court. Where am I supposed to live? That's not our problem, Dana says. Maybe one of your girlfriends will take you in. Brian looks around the room like a trapped animal. This isn't over. Yes, Dana says firmly. It is. After they leave, I sit alone in my office, processing what just happened. Brian McConnell went from successful real estate agent to homeless pariah in 4 days. His career is ruined, his marriage is over, and his reputation is destroyed, all because he couldn't keep his hands off other men's wives. My phone buzzes. Text from Erin. Brian came by. Is it fair that I have to find out about your affair from your lover's financial crisis instead of from you? Anna went very still. What did you say? Too late to take it back now. I said it's not fair that I had to find out about Rick from... You know about Rick. I've known for weeks, Anna. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way you light up when his name comes up in conversation. I'm not stupid. She sat up, and I could feel her staring at me in the darkness. If you knew, why didn't you say anything? Because I kept hoping you'd come to your senses. I kept thinking that maybe this was just some midlife crisis that would burn itself out. And now? Now I think you've made your choice. You're just too much of a coward to admit it. Anna got out of bed and turned on the bedside lamp. Her face was flushed, her hair messed from the pillow. She looked younger somehow, more vulnerable than she had in months. You're right, she said quietly. I am a coward. It wasn't the response I'd expected. I'd been prepared for denials, arguments, maybe even tears, but not this calm admission of guilt. Anna, I should have told you weeks ago. I should have been honest about my feelings, about Rick, about everything. She sat back down on the edge of the bed. I kept telling myself I was protecting you, protecting Jessica, but really I was just protecting myself. From what? From having to make a decision. From having to choose between the life I built with you and the life I want with Rick. There it was. The truth, finally spoken aloud. I should have felt vindicated, but instead I felt hollow. And what life do you want with Rick? Anna's eyes filled with tears. I want to feel important again. I want to be with someone who sees me as more than just a wife and mother. I want to travel and take risks and feel like I'm living instead of just existing. You think I've been holding you back? Not intentionally, but Dave, look at us. Look at our life. We go to work, we come home, we watch TV, we go to bed. We haven't been on a real vacation in 3 years. We haven't had a conversation about anything meaningful in months. We're roommates, not lovers. She wasn't wrong, but the truth stung anyway. So your solution was to have an affair? My solution was to feel alive again. Rick makes me feel alive. And what about Jessica? What about our family? Jessica's 17. She'll be leaving for college next year anyway, and you... Anna looked at me with something that might have been pity. You'll be fine. You're strong, you're stable. You'll find someone who appreciates those qualities. Someone who's not you. Someone who's not me. We sat in silence, the weight of 22 years settling between us like dust. Outside, the city was winding down into the small hours of the morning. Inside, our marriage was ending with a whisper instead of a scream. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. I suppose we'll have to figure out the practical stuff. The house, custody arrangements, how to tell Jessica. And Rick? What happens with Rick? Anna's expression hardened slightly. What do you mean? I mean, Rick's having some financial problems right now. His investors are nervous. His portfolio took a major hit. Are you sure you want to hitch your wagon to someone whose career might be in trouble? How do you know about Rick's finances? I shrugged. Small town. Word gets around. Anna studied my face suspiciously. Dave, what did you do? Nothing illegal. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. She stood up and started pacing the room. If you did something to hurt Rick's business... I didn't hurt anything. I just revealed some information that was already public. Rick's investment strategies, his risk tolerance, his professional judgment, all matters of public record. You sabotaged him. I exposed him. There's a difference. Anna stopped pacing and stared at me. I never knew you could be so vindictive. I never knew my wife could be so selfish. I guess we're both learning new things about each other. She grabbed her robe from the closet and headed for the door. I'm sleeping in the guest room. Anna? She paused in the doorway. This conversation we just had? It's going to happen again, probably with lawyers present. You might want to think about how honest you want to be when there are legal consequences involved. Her face went pale. Are you threatening me? I'm advising you, as someone who spent the last few weeks learning about divorce law, asset protection, and the professional consequences of workplace affairs. Anna left without another word, closing the door behind her with unnecessary force. I turned off the lamp and lay back down in the darkness, listening to her footsteps in the hallway, the sound of the guest room door closing. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Harbor Park. Come alone. R. Rick wanted a meeting. Perfect. It was time for the two of us to have a conversation about boundaries, consequences, and the price of underestimating people. I typed back, see you there. Then I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring the first direct confrontation in this war that Anna and Rick had started. The game was about to get much more interesting. Harbor Park sat on a bluff overlooking the water, a small patch of grass and benches where locals came to watch the sunset and pretend the city was more romantic than it actually was. At 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening, it was mostly empty except for a few joggers and an elderly man feeding seagulls with stale bread. Rick Brennan was waiting for me on the bench farthest from the parking lot, dressed in what I was starting to recognize as his uniform. Expensive suit, perfectly styled hair, the kind of confident posture that came from a lifetime of getting his way. He looked up as I approached, and I could see the stress lines around his eyes that hadn't been there at Anna's Christmas party. Dave, he said, standing to shake my hand. Thanks for coming. Rick? I ignored the offered handshake and sat down on the opposite end of the bench. Nice evening for a chat. He sat back down, maintaining that careful distance that men keep when they're not sure if they're about to have a conversation or a fight. I think we need to clear the air, Rick said. About what? About Anna, about the situation we're all in. I watched a fishing boat making its way back to harbor, its wake cutting a white line through the dark water. What situation is that? Rick studied my face, probably trying to figure out how much I knew and how much I was bluffing. Come on, Dave. We're both adults here. You know about Anna and me. I know my wife's been working late a lot. I know she's been distracted and secretive. I know she's been spending time with you. I turned to look at him directly. What I don't know is what you think gives you the right to destroy my family. I didn't set out to destroy anything, but that's what happened, isn't it? You saw a married woman going through a rough patch and you decided to take advantage of the situation. Rick's jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. Anna and I connected on a professional level first. The personal relationship developed naturally. Naturally. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call it when you seduce your business partner's wife? Anna made her own choices, Dave. I didn't force her into anything. No, you just made yourself available. The understanding colleague, the sympathetic ear, the exciting alternative to her boring husband. Rick was quiet for a moment, watching the seagulls circle overhead. When he spoke again, his tone was more serious. Look, I know this is painful for you, but Anna's not happy in her marriage. She hasn't been happy for a long time. And you're going to fix that? I'm going to try. I care about her, Dave. This isn't just some casual affair. Right, it's true love. I stood up and walked to the railing overlooking the water. Tell me something, Rick. How's your portfolio doing these days? The change of subject caught him off guard. What? Your investments. I heard you had some bad luck in the biotech sector. Rick's expression darkened. You heard about that? Word gets around. Small business community. You know how it is? People talk. People like you? I turned back to face him. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know you're the one who's been spreading rumors about my financial situation, calling my investors, questioning my judgment, undermining my business relationships. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. Rick stood up and took a step toward me. The question is what you think you're going to accomplish. I'm not trying to accomplish anything. I'm just sharing information with people who might be interested. Information about what? About your gambling problem, your recent divorce, your tendency to make high-risk investments with other people's money, your habit of mixing business with pleasure. Rick's face flushed red. You don't know anything about my business. I know more than you think. I know about the poker games, the sports betting, the margin trading. I know about the investors who are starting to ask questions about your judgment. I know about the real estate deal that fell through because your partners don't trust you anymore. How could you possibly? Because I'm good at what I do, Rick. You think I'm just some computer repair guy who fixes printers and installs software. But what I actually do is solve problems. I find information, I analyze patterns, I figure out how systems work and how to make them work better. I walked back to the bench and sat down, forcing Rick to either sit or loom over me awkwardly. He chose to sit, but kept his distance. You want to know what I figured out about you? I continued. You're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as successful as you pretend to be. And you're definitely not as careful as you should be. What's that supposed to mean? It means your social media presence tells a very interesting story about your lifestyle and spending habits. It means your professional communications reveal a lot about your business practices and client relationships. It means you've left a digital trail that paints a pretty clear picture of who you really are. Rick was quiet, but I could see him thinking, trying to figure out how much damage I could do with whatever information I'd gathered. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to end your relationship with Anna, you're going to transfer off the Morrison account, you're going to have minimal professional contact with my wife, and zero personal contact. And if I don't? Then I'm going to share everything I've learned about you with everyone who might be interested. Your investors, your clients, your professional associations, your ex-wife's divorce attorney. Rick laughed, but it sounded forced. You're bluffing. Am I? Tell me, Rick, how many of your current business relationships could survive a detailed examination of your personal and professional conduct? How many of your investors would stick around if they knew about your gambling debts? How many clients would trust you with their accounts if they knew you were having an affair with a married colleague? That's blackmail. That's consequences. You made choices, Rick. You chose to pursue a married woman. You chose to mix your personal life with your professional responsibilities. You chose to gamble with money you couldn't afford to lose. Now you get to live with the results of those choices. Rick stood up and started pacing in front of the bench. Anna won't let you destroy me. She cares about me. Anna cares about Anna, always has. If destroying you becomes inconvenient for her, she'll drop you faster than a bad stock pick. You don't know her like I do. I've been married to her for 22 years. I know exactly who she is. Rick stopped pacing and stared at me. She's leaving you, Dave? Whether I'm in the picture or not, Anna's done with your marriage. Maybe, but that's between Anna and me. It's not your decision to make. I'm not making any decisions for her. Yes, you are. Every time you encourage her to lie to me, every time you make plans for a future together, every time you convince her that what she really needs is to blow up her family for your benefit, you're making decisions for her. I stood up and walked toward the parking lot. You've got 24 hours to think about what I said. After that, I start making phone calls. Dave, wait. I turned back. Rick looked smaller somehow, less confident than when we'd started talking. What if Anna doesn't want to end things between us? Then you'll have to decide what's more important, your relationship with my wife or your career. I left him standing there in the gathering dusk, staring out at the harbor where the fishing boats were returning home. My phone buzzed with a text from Anna. Where are you? We need to talk. I typed back, Handling some business, home in an hour. The drive home gave me time to think about the conversation with Rick. He was scared, but not scared enough yet. Men like Rick were used to talking their way out of problems, used to finding angles and making deals. He'd probably spend the evening trying to figure out how to turn this situation to his advantage, which was fine. Let him think he could outmaneuver me. Let him underestimate the quiet computer guy who fixed problems for a living. He'd learn soon enough that some problems couldn't be solved with charm and confidence. Anna was waiting in the living room when I got home, still dressed in her work clothes but with her shoes kicked off and her hair pulled back. She looked tired, older than her 41 years. "How did it go?" she asked. "How did what go?" "Your meeting with Rick. He told me you two were going to talk." "It was educational." Anna studied my face, trying to read my expression. "What did you say to him?" I explained the situation from my perspective, made sure he understood the potential consequences of his choices. "Dave, what are you planning?" I sat down in my chair and picked up the remote control, flipping through channels without really watching anything. "I'm not planning anything, Anna. I wake up naturally. No alarm, no frantic phone calls, no crisis demanding immediate attention. Just sunlight streaming through my bedroom window and the sound of my daughters talking quietly in the hallway. "Is Daddy awake?" Emma whispers. "I think so. His door's open," Katie responds. "Should we make him breakfast?" We're not allowed to use the stove without permission. I smile and call out, "I'm awake, girls, and yes, we can make breakfast together." The next hour is perfect in its simplicity. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, and easy conversation about school, friends, and weekend plans. No mention of Aaron or Brian or the chaos that's defined our lives for the past week. Just a father and his daughters enjoying Sunday morning. At 10 o'clock, my phone rings. Aaron. "Will, I need to ask you something." "What?" "Can I take the girls to church today? I know it's not my scheduled time, but I want them to see that I'm trying to get my life together." I consider this. Church attendance doesn't erase adultery, but it might be a genuine step toward stability. "Which church?" "St. Matthew's, the one we used to attend." Where everyone knows our family. Where people will see Aaron with the girls and draw their own conclusions about our situation. "Fine, but I'm coming with you." "Will, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. If you want to make a public appearance with my daughters, I'm going to be there." An hour later, we're sitting in the third pew of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, looking like a normal family to anyone who doesn't know our story. Erin's dressed conservatively, makeup covering the bruise on her cheek from last night's encounter with Brian. The girls are in their Sunday dresses, happy to be together with both parents. Father Martinez delivers a sermon about forgiveness and redemption that feels uncomfortably relevant. Several parishioners nod at us during the service, and I can see them processing our presence together, probably assuming we've reconciled. After the service, we're approached by the Hendersons, longtime family friends. "Will, Aaron, so good to see you both," Mary Henderson says warmly. "How are you doing?" "We're fine," Aaron answers quickly. "Just taking things one day at a time." "That's wonderful. Marriage takes work, but it's worth fighting for." I see Aaron's face light up with hope, thinking I'm going to play along with this narrative. Instead, I smile politely and say, "Actually, Mary, Aaron and I are getting divorced. We're here today because we're committed to co-parenting effectively." The silence is immediate and uncomfortable. Mary's smile freezes, and her husband looks like he wants to disappear. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize—" "It's fine," I continue. "These things happen. The important thing is making sure Katie and Emma feel loved and supported through the transition." Erin's face has gone red with embarrassment, but she can't contradict me without making a scene in church. We have similar conversations with 3 other families, and each time I'm honest about our situation. By the time we reach the parking lot, Aaron is furious. "Why did you do that? Why did you embarrass me in front of everyone?" "I didn't embarrass you, Aaron. I told the truth. There's a difference." "You could have let them think we were working things out." "Why? So you can maintain some fantasy that this is all going to blow over?" The girls are playing on the church playground, out of earshot but visible. "Will, I'm trying to rebuild my reputation, to show people that I'm not the terrible person everyone thinks I am." "Then be a better person, consistently, over time. Don't try to manage people's perceptions." "Easy for you to say, you're not the one everyone's talking about." "Actually, I am. The difference is I'm not trying to control what they say." A car pulls into the parking lot. Dana McConnell gets out with her 2 children, both dressed for church. She sees us and walks over. "Will, Aaron, how are you both?" We're fine, I answer. How are you and the kids adjusting? Better every day. The kids are excited about having their own rooms in our new apartment. She's being gracious, but there's steel underneath. Aaron shifts uncomfortably. Dana, I want you to know how sorry I am about everything that happened. Dana studies Aaron for a long moment. Are you? Because being sorry means understanding the impact of your actions, not just regretting the consequences. I do understand. Do you? Because my children asked me why Daddy doesn't live with us anymore. My 8-year-old son wanted to know if he did something wrong to make his father leave. Aaron's eyes fill with tears, but Dana isn't finished. You knew Brian was married when you started your relationship. You knew he had children. You chose to pursue it anyway because what you wanted was more important than what his family needed. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Conversations paused as I passed, people recognizing me and wondering what Anna Mitchell's husband was doing at an event where she was clearly with another man. Anna saw me coming when I was still 20 feet away. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, fear, anger, and finally resignation. Rick followed her gaze and spotted me approaching, his confident smile faltering. Dave, Anna said as I reached their table, what are you doing here? Supporting my wife at her big event. Isn't that what husbands do? The other people at the table, clients, colleagues, potential business partners, looked back and forth between Anna, Rick, and me, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. Anna, said an older woman I recognized as the Morrison account's primary contact, aren't you going to introduce your husband? Anna had no choice. Everyone, this is my husband, Dave Mitchell. Dave, this is Margaret Morrison, and these are the other members of the Morrison team. I shook hands around the table, playing the role of the supportive spouse while Anna watched nervously. Rick remained silent, probably calculating his options. I've heard so much about this project, I said to Margaret Morrison. Anna and Rick have been working on it constantly. Late nights, weekend meetings, very dedicated partnership. They've done excellent work, Margaret agreed. Very thorough, very intimate understanding of our needs. The word intimate hung in the air like a challenge. Anna's face flushed red. Rick's been particularly helpful, I continued, though I understand he's been dealing with some personal challenges lately. Financial stress can be so difficult to manage. Rick's jaw tightened. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh, just the usual pressures of running a consulting business. Market volatility, investor relations, managing risk. I'm sure someone in your position has to be very careful about their professional reputation. Dave, Anna said quietly, maybe we should what? Should pretend that everything's normal? Should act like we're all just friends here? The conversation at nearby tables had stopped. People were openly staring now, sensing that something dramatic was about to happen. Margaret Morrison looked confused. Is there some kind of problem? That depends, I said, on how you define problem. Is it a problem when business partners become personally involved? Is it a problem when professional judgment gets compromised by personal relationships? Is it a problem when married people start making promises they can't keep? Dave, stop, Anna hissed. Stop what? Stop asking questions. Stop pointing out obvious conflicts of interest. Stop protecting my family's reputation. Rick finally found his voice. I think you've had too much to drink. I haven't had anything to drink, but that's an interesting deflection technique. Is that how you handle all your problems? Blame someone else? Gentlemen, Margaret Morrison interrupted, perhaps this conversation would be better held in private. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I think this conversation should be as public as possible. I opened the photo gallery I'd prepared and started scrolling through screenshots. Rick's social media posts from expensive restaurants, financial documents showing his trading losses, email communications discussing his risk management strategies, photos of him and Anna at locations that didn't match her claimed work schedule. Dave, put that away, Anna demanded. Why? Are you embarrassed by something? Ashamed of your professional conduct? Rick stood up abruptly. That's enough. Is it? Because I'm just getting started. Rick grabbed my arm, trying to take the phone away. I pulled back, and he stumbled slightly, bumping into the table and knocking over a water glass. The crash of glass hitting the floor echoed through the suddenly quiet ballroom. Rick! Anna jumped up to steady him, her hand on his arm in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. The entire room was watching now. 200 of the city's most influential people, all staring at the drama unfolding at table 12. Margaret Morrison stood up slowly, her expression cold. I think I understand the situation now. Mrs. Morrison, Anna began, I can explain. I'm sure you can, but I don't think we need to hear it. Margaret picked up her purse and looked around the table at her colleagues. We'll be in touch about the Morrison account, through official channels. She walked away, followed by the rest of the Morrison team. Other tables began emptying as people decided they'd rather discuss this drama in private than watch it unfold in public. Anna sank back into her chair, her face buried in her hands. Rick straightened his tie and tried to regain his composure, but the damage was done. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "You've just destroyed both your careers in front of everyone who matters in this city." "You planned this," Rick said. "I planned to attend my wife's work event. Everything else was your choice." "Dave?" Anna looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "How could you do this to me?" "I didn't do anything to you, Anna. You did this to yourself when you decided to have a public affair with your business partner." "It wasn't public." "It is now." Anna's boss appeared at our table, his expression grim. "Anna, Rick, I think we need to have a conversation. My office. First thing Monday morning." They nodded miserably, already knowing what that conversation would entail. I straightened my tie and looked around the nearly empty ballroom. "Well, this has been educational. Anna, I'll be staying at Mike's place for a few days while you figure out your living arrangements. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings." "Dave, wait." But I was already walking away, leaving Anna and Rick to face the consequences of their choices alone. The lobby was full of people discussing what they'd just witnessed, their voices buzzing with excitement and speculation. I drove home through the quiet streets, past the harbor where fishing boats rocked gently at their moorings. The city looked peaceful in the darkness, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded at the Harbor Grand Hotel. Jessica was waiting for me in the living room, still dressed in her pajamas, but clearly awake. "How did it go?" she asked. "It went exactly as planned." "Good." She stood up and hugged me, something she hadn't done in months. "I'm proud of you, Dad." "For what?" "For not letting them get away with it, for fighting back." I hugged her tighter, realizing that whatever else happened, at least I hadn't lost everything that mattered. "Pack a bag," I said. "We're going to stay at Uncle Mike's for a few days while your mother figures out what she wants to do." "What about school?" "What about it? Sometimes the most important lessons happen outside the classroom." Jessica grinned and headed upstairs to pack. I sat down in my chair and looked around the living room one last time, at the family photos, the furniture we'd chosen together, the life Anna and I had built over 22 years. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and negotiations, custody arrangements, and property settlements. Anna and Rick would have to deal with the professional consequences of their affair, the damage to their reputations, the questions about their judgment and ethics. But tonight, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The game was over, and I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed my enemies, but because I'd refused to be destroyed by them. My phone buzzed with a text from Anna. "I'm sorry. For everything." I looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late to matter, and some bridges burn too completely to rebuild. I turned off the lights and headed upstairs to pack my own bag. The war was over, but my life was just beginning.